Falls entering class and beyond. And that's stirring up heated debate with rallies planned for tomorrow. Joining us now to share differing views on this topic is Virginia Marshall, retired teacher of Galileo High School and president of the San Francisco Alliance of Black Educators, and Rex Ridgway, interim chair of the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee and the incoming executive vice president of the Lincoln High School PTSA. Thank you both for being here today.
You're welcome.
You're
welcome.
I want to be clear, nothing will be decided tomorrow, but the introductions of the resolutions will definitely renew the debate. And please, both of you, let me know if I did not sum up your positions accurately. Virginia, you are all for continuing the lottery admissions policy, right?
I absolutely am, yes.
Okay, and Rex, you're for bringing back merit admissions, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so Virginia, I'll start with you. Why do you think lottery admissions is preferable?
Because it gives the lottery admission gives every student in the district an opportunity to attend Lowell High School. Lowell High School should be open for every student in this district, not just a select few. This past year, with the lottery-based admission, as it is with all of our high schools, we saw increase in enrollment in every ethnic group, including African Americans, and that's the way it should be.
All right, thank you. Rex, why do you think the district needs to go back to merit-based admissions?
Well, for one thing, we have several high schools, Lincoln, George Washington as an example, and Galileo, where she's at. And these are schools that also bring in students who are ready to go. The problem with Lowell, or the opportunity with Lowell, as an example, 25% of the kids that entered the 9th grade this year received an F or a D in their grades. Now, that's not broken down by race, but what we found out is that the kids that are getting into Lowell by lottery, most of them are not prepared to, at this elite rigorous coursing that Lowell brings. And so I feel that if we improve the other schools, more parents would be less anxious about like Lincoln, where my granddaughter goes, or George Washington, and that Lowell will continue to be the elite school that it is. So I don't have a problem with Lowell's admission, but we need to make sure that the kids entering Lowell are prepared. And we found out that this year, many of them are not prepared at this rigorous elite school, which should remain there.
Okay, we have to move quickly, but Rex, I did want to ask you, you had a personal story connection in that your granddaughter, you think her admissions chances at Lowell were impacted negatively by the lottery process?
Yes, that's absolutely right. We basically, if I can say the word, programmed her to go to Lowell from the time she was in the 4th grade. And her test scores were always higher than the average school site, as well as higher than the average state. So when they changed the lottery to lottery base, she was no longer really set to actually be chosen by Lowell. As
right, I'm sorry, I just want to mention that I can hear from what you're saying that your granddaughter had high numbers and stats, but I just want to share the district sent us a message responding, saying that given the ratio of applicants to seats, no one can say whether or not a student would have gotten into Lowell based on previous criteria. I know there are no absolute certainties when it comes to admissions, but I do hear what you're saying as well. But I want to give Virginia a chance to comment, which is, I understand diversity, equity, definitely a big issue for a lot of people in the district. I think there are different views on how to get there. Rex seems to be saying his granddaughter being of Latina and Black background didn't get into Lowell. How does that improve diversity to have the lottery? If you can explain how that might work.
Well, I think the diversity of what this past semester, fall 2021, shows how more diverse Lowell is now, because there are so many more students there of various ethnic groups. Every school in the district should be great, not just Lowell. Every middle school should be great. Every elementary school should be great. And Lowell, every high school should be like Lowell High School. And parents should have a choice. Parents need to have a choice. I don't know about programming a child to go to a certain school, We want to have all of our children do well in every school they go to, whatever school they go to, and have a welcome environment. And the key for me, when I heard the stats not too long ago, is that the students who are the first quarter, the first marking period, when the staff saw that students are not doing well, those students, the parents should have been called, and they should have been encouraged. They should have been required and encouraged to go to tutoring. But Lowell is not just for one group. It is for every student in San Francisco.
What do you think about that,
Rex? Well, may I speak up? I would just want to say I agree
like
with
for this to be a good
what she
conversation
said.
Between us all.
Every school, I totally agree with what she said, the first part of what she just said, Christine. All the high schools should be those where a parent would have no problem going there or would desire that their kids go there, whether it's Thurgood Marshall, whether it's Burton, whether it's Mission, whether it's Lincoln, where my granddaughter lives, goes. But the question is that if they go to Lowell is not going to dumb it down or lower the standards of the academic rigorous, okay? So therefore, my main concern is, how do we get the kids that go to Lowell or Washington or Lincoln prepared academically? And that is the main problem that we're seeing with kids that are going to Lowell. They're not ready. So I don't have a problem with diversity and making sure that we have it, but the numbers should not just be the main driver. We should make sure that they are ready, because when you go to Lowell, it'll change your life to what, going into to elite colleges. We can't have kids go to Lowell just because of diversity. We must couple that with rigorous academic preparation that they're not getting in the middle schools.
I'm hearing overlap here between you two. Am I right that you both feel like at the lower levels in lower schools, like the elementary and middle schools, students need to be supported better? Do you share that goal?
Absolutely. We had to, unfortunately for African Americans in San Francisco, we had to sue the school district through the NAACP, where I'm the education chair, under the consent decree. Some years ago, folks were fighting to get into Burton High School and Dr. M.L. King because it has strong academic standards. So we know that our students can thrive if given the opportunity. Mm-hmm. So we need to go back to those days of the consent decree. I used to work at Burton High School. I want to correct the record. I am no longer working at Galileo. I'm recently retired as of July 1st, but I was there for 5 wonderful years. But every school needs to be a great school in this district, mm-hmm. and every student needs an opportunity, especially African American students, especially students who live in our public housing and live with grandparents or single parents. Everyone needs an opportunity.
Well, and let me chime in on these test scores, because I totally agree with you, Virginia. We're really on the same side of the table. Look at the test scores right now. Bret Harte, only 8% of the kids can read at grade level. Chavez, only 21%. El Dorado Elementary School, only 11% read at grade level. Charles Drew, 19%. Carver, only 16% read at grade level. We can't have these kids leave elementary school, get into middle school, and then enter Lowell High. We have to, I'm agreeing with you. I'm not arguing or debating. We're on the same page. We have to start early to make sure of a kid that's going to Bret Harte or El Dorado or Malcolm X, if their parent wants them to go to Lowell, when they enter Lowell first, boom, they're ready to go. But right now, if we don't nip it in the bud, then they're not going to be ready at the elite schools. Not only Lowell, but Washington, Lincoln, and the others as well. I would think you would agree with that.
That goes back to credentialed teachers. A few years ago at Bret Harte, we had a young woman from Stanford University teaching math at Bret Harte. She got laid off. There was no reason for that. We live in a very rich city. The district didn't have enough money. We should have had some corporate sponsor to pay her salary to keep her there. What a loss. What a loss to all of those students. So every child in this district deserves a high quality education. Every child deserves a credentialed teacher in the area, especially in mathematics, especially language arts.
Virginia and Rex, I'm so sorry we're out of time for today's discussion, but I definitely do hear commonalities there. Look, I wanted to get into whether you each thought there was a way to do lottery while considering a student's motivation and preparedness, and whether there's a way to do merit while considering equity and diversity. But I think we'll have to save that for another conversation. Again, this will be introduced tomorrow, but there'll be a lot more time to debate that. So thank you both for sharing your perspectives. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, and I hope you have us back. Virginia, nice meeting you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, coming up next, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we are helping you get the answers you need. We'll check in with a licensed therapist. That's next.
In commercial break.
All right, everybody, thanks for joining us today. Hope you had a good weekend. We'll be right back. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and as part of ABC7's effort to build a better Bay Area, we are committed to getting you the answers you need and deserve. All this week, we'll talk with experts here at 3 o'clock to get insights on mental health so you can take action. Joining us now is Katie Morton, a licensed marriage and family therapist based in Austin, Texas. She's author of a new book called Traumatized and Are You Okay? Thanks for joining us here. Katie, do you have an estimate on how many Americans are struggling with mental health?
Are affected, but I would argue due to the pandemic and just things happening in our world, we've all been affected. And I think everyone has a mental health, but mental illness is much more common than we realize.
Struggling more than others right now?
Pardon? I didn't hear you.
Are certain demographic groups struggling a little bit more right now?
Yes, it's mainly the people, frontline workers have been affected significantly due to the pandemic. I think, honestly, we were all traumatized by what took place, but the people who had to go in to help others, to not only take care of us health-wise, but even like truck drivers, people at the grocery store, I think those people were much more affected and I think are having a tougher time, not to mention our children. Pulling children out of, after school activities, out of school, I think has definitely had a detrimental effect. And I've heard from a lot of my friends, it's just my age group, I guess, but they all have young children and being at home and not having any childcare. I mean, think of the ripple effects of the last 2 years. It's been incredibly difficult. And I think more people than not have been affected, but definitely those groups significantly.
All right. Now, look, Katie, we get physicals to check on our health, but we don't really get mental health checkups. Do we need them?
Yes, we do. I think often we wait too long to go in to see a therapist. I'll even be honest, I've been in and out of therapy since I was 15 and I'm now 38. And even now, I wait longer than I should to get back in to see my therapist. I think we should all see a therapist, get checkups, see them tell them how we're doing, vent about what's going on, get some insights and some tools and techniques, because it reminds us we're not alone. It gives us some actionable items, helps empower us. It's really important, and we wait too long. We often think we need to be really, really suffering to get help, but we don't. You know, just like you'd go to the doctor because you're coming down with a cold that just doesn't seem to go away.
Right.
We should do that with our mental health as well.
Especially with depression, you know, the term can feel so big, and so people go, oh, that's not me, it's not that bad for me. But so what are the signs, right, that you think people should take note of, where if you see them you go, hey, maybe I do need some help?
Yeah, if anything is off, like a lot of mental health diagnoses, especially depression, anxiety, always have us noticing like changes in appetite or sleep. Those are things we should notice. Am I more hungry, less hungry? Am I sleeping more, not sleeping enough? Are we seeing any significant changes in that? Or another one that I think a lot of us can recognize is, are we feeling extra irritable? Is it hard to be at work or school? Are we just feeling on edge a lot? Or are we not able to do the things we need to do each day? Is it like exhausting? We just don't have the energy. Those are always just some of the key components I have people pay attention to. And another one I just want to throw out there, because I think we're all kind of guilty of this lately, is, are you spending a lot of time on social media instead of engaging with people in real life? Just pay attention to those things.
All right, so how do you advise people help themselves with mental health issues? I know you talked about going to a professional, but what are resources?
There's a ton that we can do right now. I always tell everybody HALT is a great acronym to remember. It's like stop, HALT, stands for hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Just taking care of those basic things can really improve our mood, improve our mental health. And one that's really important right now is that connection, that loneliness component. There's a ton of research. If you want to get really nerdy with it, you can look into vagus nerve and the polyvagal theory. But that connection that we get with people who truly know us is incredibly soothing and can really improve our mood in the moment.
All right, Katie Morton, licensed marriage and family therapist, thank you so very much for your time and insight. Our discussion on mental health continues all this week on ABC7 News at 4. Today, Kaiser Permanente's Regional Medical Director for Mental Health Programs will join us, so tune in for that. And keep it here for more Getting Answers after this break with Dr. Alok Patel and a big announcement.
In commercial break.
Pfizer has released new data on its COVID vaccine for children under 5. The company says its 3-dose vaccine was 80% effective against symptomatic Omicron infection, though the trial wasn't big enough to estimate protection against severe disease. So what comes next? Joining us now to talk about that and other stuff is ABC7 News special correspondent and a member of our vaccine team, Dr. Alok Patel. Dr. Patel, good to see you. Before we get to the other news, you have major news of your own, something you haven't shared anywhere else yet. What is it?
You said and other stuff, and people out there might hear that my voice sounds a little bit different. And Kristen, this is why, because I am positive on this rapid test. And it's not surprising, first of all, given the fact of how incredibly contagious and widespread it is, but I feel a little deflated right now because I've done so well to protect myself and my family. But also, I kind of feel like garbage. And if I can just be completely honest about it, there is a little bit of solace knowing that because I'm vaccinated and I'm boosted, that I am more than likely doing much better in this acute phase than I would have been. But, you know, I've been doing everything I can to keep this voice working. But, you know, fevers, body aches, I'm on day 3. It's getting better now, which is a good thing. But it's not just any other flu because it could have been a lot worse. And I will tell you, honey lemon tea is also the jam.
Okay, you're clearly in good spirits. Okay, anytime somebody uses a Hello Kitty mug, I know they're okay. And although we love you, we're actually more worried about baby Elora. Your 1-year-old, she lives in the same household, of course, so does she get it?
Unfortunately, yes. And that was a gut punch, Kristen. To be completely honest, I did everything I could. The minute we felt a little symptomatic, Jenna and I, my wife, the minute I felt symptomatic, I went and took a rapid test. My rapid test actually turned positive, and this was before we had even tested Elora. She still felt kind of fine. I wore a K95 mask at home. I stayed away from her. We did whatever we could to kind of limit that close contact because I was like, in the small chance that we can keep her away, we have an air purifier in her room. We opened her window, and sure enough, in the morning, she had a fever. We rapid tested her, and that thing, boom, turned positive quickly. And it was sad. She's doing well. She's doing better now. She says hi to everyone.
Oh, does she have a fever too? Is she coughing like you? Feeling, you know, like garbage, so to speak?
She does. She's 13 months old.
Yeah.
And she's on day 2 of fever. Her appetite was a little bit down yesterday. It's getting better today. And my fingers are crossed, honestly, that she's just going to continue to do better. But Kristen, you know, this is my pediatric brain versus my idealistic father protective side of me is in the back of my mind. I'm like, you know, thank God that she's not doing worse. But also part of me does worry about long COVID or MISC, even though it affects
the chances are super small.
I'm still worried.
You know the chances are small. Nonetheless, when you're a parent and that's your kid, of course you worry. Okay, so this is why, you know, I want to bring it back to today's news of Pfizer, the data on its vaccine that it's put before the FDA for 6 months to 5-year-olds. So Elora would have qualified had this been around, right, a month ago. Tell us about this. You know, what is it showing? What does that 80% efficacy mean?
Right on, and very welcome news, Kristen, by a lot of parents who saw this morning. So what this essentially is preliminary data from Pfizer that's important. It's not been reviewed by our independent vaccine committees here with the FDA or CDC. The 80% efficacy is basically reporting on 10 symptomatic children. That's not a large number. That's not enough to actually make a statement of that 80% efficacy, which is why it's called preliminary. They need 21 for that. But the two kind of endpoints, if you will, that enable them to go ahead and go forward with this emergency use authorization is the antibody level that these kids got from these 3-dose vaccine series. So the immunobridging qualification was there. And also, throughout the entire trial, even in February, when the antibody report wasn't sufficient, the safety data was there. There's never been a safety issue with this vaccine. So between the fact that it's got a good safety profile, there's a good antibody level, and the preliminary data shows an 80% efficacy, that is more than enough to be able to go and present all this information and have that needed debate with the FDA and the CDC to hopefully get a shot into little arms at the end of June, maybe early July.
Okay. So you don't see any red flag in the data that we've learned about so far? Nothing?
I don't see a red flag in the safety data, excuse me, the safety data or the immunobridging thing. And I wouldn't call it a red flag, but I think it's too early to say, hey, it's 80% efficacious. People need to be realistic and realize that it's preliminary data. It's a smaller number. And this is why it's important that we have these follow-up meetings with the FDA and the CDC. I know there's a lot of parents out there who don't trust the vaccine or who say, hey, I want to see more data. So do we. Before I give this shot to my daughter who currently has COVID, I want to also see the data and make sure that it's safe and that it works.
Okay. What percentage of parents do you think will opt for it? Because I think the numbers are already kind of low for the next age group up, the 5 to 11-year-olds, right?
They are, and that we can't lose sight of that. Even as we talk about boosters for that group age 5 to 11, that group is only about 30% fully vaccinated. According to polls, it's around 20 to 30% of parents say that they will go out and get this shot for their kids age 6 months to 5. Kristen, I think that's likely what we'll see when the vaccine first comes out, but that might change given how widespread BA.2.1.2.1 is. We were in a phase in between Omicron and BA.2 where all of a sudden people said, hey, Omicron was a more mild variant, and we're no longer worried about our kids. Then they saw the seropositivity study and thought we were done with this. But I will tell you anecdotally that BA.2.1.2.1 is hitting so many people who are doing everything they could to do the right protection. And I'm saying BA.2.1.2.1, not that everyone's getting sequenced, but out of an assumption that right now a lot of people are getting infected. It's only a matter of time, it feels like, before it runs into you. So you want to hedge your bets. All
right. Well, Dr. Patel, thanks for sharing your personal news as well as your insights on the Pfizer vaccine for kids. You're getting a lot of Facebook comments here about get better soon, doc, and family. So we'll take a short break and we'll be right back.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, I want to share some of your comments for Dr. Patel, and here we are finishing up on Facebook Live. If you have any questions for him or about his baby, here's your chance. But Erica says, so sorry, Doc and fam. Carrie Burns says, I hope you all feel better soon. Spencer says, feel better, Dr. Patel and family. In quarantine myself, day 5, so I feel the pain. Rock the Hello Kitty mug. He's loving the Hello Kitty mug.
That's my TV mug I have to represent. And I'm glad, Kristen, I'm glad someone brought up the day 5 of quarantine because it's still important we do that. I mean, it's so disruptive.
What's your plan? What's your plan in terms of?
My plan is not to deviate from that plan. That's 5 days of quarantine. Then no symptoms after 5 days. We're still going to be testing to make sure I'm negative before I go back to a work setting, a high risk setting, and wearing a mask for 5 days after that 5-day quarantine period, just to reduce the amount of potential spread to other people. That is, I'm following the CDC guidelines, not going to break that.
Gotcha. Okay. More comments flowing in here. Luz says, feel better soon. Daniel says, biggest well wishes for Dr. Patel and family. Robert says, get well soon. Can I just ask you, how do you think you got exposed? Maybe it's hard to put your finger on it, but any good guesses?
I'm going to be completely honest with you. I have talked to so many people I saw in the past week, and guess is as good as mine. Now, we were traveling last week and we got back before we became symptomatic. So part of me wonders, like, was it the airplane? Was it travel? Was it an Uber? But we're wearing a mask in all those settings.
Wow.
Was it someone who's asymptomatic? It's very weird. And remember, you can get exposed, and if you're vaccinated, develop symptoms pretty quickly after. So I'm figuring it happened in the last 5 days. I'm just not sure. Right. Which is even speaks to the contagiousness.
I mean, there must have been moments or minutes or perhaps even while dining when you had your mask down, though, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think people are kind of making an assumption that they're potentially going to run into it.
I'm wrapping the show. Get better. Give Laura a kiss for us.
I will.
Thank you so much for joining us on Getting Answers. We'll be here every weekday at 3, so I'll see you back here later on. Bye-bye.